There is something quietly embarrassing that millions of people deal with every single day. They hide it inside socks. They ignore it in the shower. They try creams from the pharmacy, feel some relief, and then, a few weeks later, it comes back. Itching, burning, peeling skin between the toes or on the soles of the feet, athlete's foot, nail fungus, and persistent foot infections have become one of the most common, yet least talked about health problems in adults over 50. And here's the part most people don't know. The reason these infections keep returning has very little to do with how well you clean your feet. It has everything to do with the environment inside your body, and whether the conditions that allowed the fungus to grow are still present. Today we're going to talk about 7 of the most powerful natural remedies that traditional healers and modern researchers alike have studied for their antifungal, skin-supportive properties. And more importantly, we're going to talk about why most people treat only the surface when the real solution goes much deeper. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will understand foot fungus in a completely different way. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Have you personally dealt with recurring foot fungus or nail infections and felt like nothing ever fully worked? Leave a comment below and tell me your experience. You may be surprised how many people in this community have gone through the exact same frustration. Well, let us begin with a little context. Foot fungus, most commonly known as athlete's foot, is caused by a group of fungi called dermatophytes. These are microscopic organisms that feed on keratin, the protein found in your skin, hair, and nails. They thrive in warm, moist environments, between toes, inside shoes, in damp socks worn for too many hours. But here's what few people are told by their pharmacists. Dermatophytes do not simply live on your skin. They create a protective environment for themselves by disrupting the skin's natural acid balance, weakening local immune responses, and embedding themselves into the deeper layers of tissue. This is why a surface cream applied for a week or two often gives temporary relief. But the infection returns weeks or months later. The skin recovers slightly. The fungus retreats temporarily. And then, when conditions become favorable again, it returns. To truly address a persistent fungal problem, the approach must work on multiple levels. It must address the fungus directly. It must restore the skin's natural defenses, and it must support the body's internal environment so that fungal overgrowth becomes less likely over time. That is exactly what the 7 natural remedies in this video are known to do, in different and complementary ways. Let us begin. The first remedy, tea tree oil. If there is one plant extract that has earned genuine scientific respect in the world of antifungal research, it is the oil of the tea tree. The tea tree, known botanically as Melaleuca alternifolia, is native to the coastal regions of New South Wales and Australia. For generations, the indigenous Aboriginal peoples of Australia used the leaves of this plant to treat wounds, skin infections, and respiratory problems. They would crush the leaves and apply them directly to the skin or inhale the steam from heated leaves to clear congestion. Early European settlers quickly recognized the plant's remarkable properties, and by the early 20th century, tea tree oil had become a standard item in the medical kits of Australian military forces. But it was not until modern analytical chemistry became sophisticated enough to examine the oil's composition that researchers began to understand why it works so well. Tea tree oil contains a compound called terpenen-4-ol. And this molecule is now understood to be one of the most effective, naturally occurring antifungal agents ever identified. Studies published in peer-reviewed journals have shown that terpenen-4-ol disrupts the outer membrane of fungal cells, causing them to lose their structural integrity and die. It does not simply inhibit the fungus from reproducing, it actively destroys fungal cell walls. This is the key difference between tea tree oil and many conventional antifungal preparations. And it explains why researchers have found it effective against strains that have developed resistance to common pharmaceutical antifungals. But there is something else interesting about tea tree oil that many people overlook. It also has anti-inflammatory properties. This means that when you apply it to affected skin, you are not only addressing the fungus itself, you are also helping to calm the redness, swelling, and irritation that make the infection so uncomfortable. Used in practice, tea tree oil is typically diluted in a carrier oil such as coconut oil, olive oil, or almond oil before application. Pure undiluted tea tree oil can be too strong for sensitive skin and may cause irritation in some people. A common ratio is 10 to 15 drops of tea tree oil per tablespoon of carrier oil. Applied gently to the affected area twice daily, consistently for several weeks, many people have reported significant improvement in skin texture, reduction in itching, and a gradual clearing of the infection. The key word here is consistency. Tea tree oil is not a single application solution. Like most natural remedies, it works best when used regularly over time. And speaking of regularity, that is so. The next remedy on this list has been used in kitchens for thousands of years. Yet its antifungal properties are only now receiving serious scientific attention. The second remedy, apple cider vinegar. Walk into almost any traditional household in Southern Europe, the Middle East, or East Asia, and you will find vinegar in the kitchen. For centuries, fermented vinegar, particularly apple cider vinegar, has been used not just as a food ingredient, but as a home remedy for everything from digestive complaints to wound care to skin infections. And when it comes to fungal infections of the feet, apple cider vinegar has an impressive and logical mechanism of action. Fungi, including the dermatophytes responsible for athlete's foot, require a specific pH environment to thrive. They prefer slightly alkaline or neutral pH conditions on the skin's surface. A healthy human skin has a natural pH of approximately 4.5 to 5.5, which is mildly acidic. This acidic environment is part of the skin's natural defense system known as the acid mantle. When the acid mantle is disrupted through the use of harsh soaps, excessive moisture, or certain medications, the skin's surface becomes less hostile to fungal growth. This is precisely where apple cider vinegar becomes valuable. Apple cider vinegar has a pH typically between 2 and 3, making it significantly more acidic than the skin's natural surface. When diluted and applied as a foot soak, it can help restore and reinforce the acidic environment that discourages fungal growth. It essentially resets the skin's pH balance, creating conditions that are inhospitable to fungi. Additionally, apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid, which has demonstrated direct antifungal properties in laboratory settings. Acetic acid has been shown to inhibit the growth of Candida species as well as several dermatophyte strains. One of the most practical ways to use apple cider vinegar for foot fungus is as a daily foot soak. Mix 1 part raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar with 2 parts warm water in a basin large enough to comfortably soak both feet. Soak for 15 to 20 minutes each day. After soaking, dry the feet thoroughly, particularly between the toes. This last step is critical. Moisture left between the toes after soaking can actually worsen fungal growth, even if the soak itself is helping. Many people find that combining an apple cider vinegar foot soak in the morning with a tea tree oil application in the evening creates a powerful daily routine that addresses the infection from multiple angles. And now, let us talk about a remedy that has been called one of the oldest medicines in human history, and whose antifungal properties are extraordinary. The third remedy. Garlic is perhaps the most studied medicinal plant in the world. Its use as a healing food dates back at least 5,000 years, documented in ancient Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Chinese, and Indian medical traditions. Hippocrates, often called the father of modern medicine, prescribed garlic for respiratory infections, digestive problems, and wound healing. In World War I and World War II, garlic was reportedly used on wounds when conventional antibiotics were not available. And it worked. But the reason garlic is so effective against both bacteria and fungi was not understood at a molecular level until the 20th century. In 1944, a chemist named Chester Cavallito identified the active compound responsible for garlic's medicinal properties. He named it allicin. Allicin is produced when raw garlic is crushed or chopped, triggering an enzymatic reaction that converts a precursor compound called alliin into this highly active molecule. And allicin is, by any measure, remarkable. It is both antibacterial and antifungal. Studies have confirmed that allicin inhibits the growth of Candida albicans, Trichophyton rubrum, the most common cause of athlete's foot, and numerous other fungal species. It does this by interfering with the fungus's ability to produce essential enzymes needed for cell metabolism. Without those enzymes, the fungal cell cannot survive. There's also evidence that allicin can penetrate the nail plate, making it particularly relevant for people suffering from nail fungus, which is notoriously difficult to treat even with pharmaceutical medications. In practice, garlic can be used both topically and internally for fungal infections. Topically, a paste made from crushed raw garlic mixed with a small amount of olive oil can be applied to affected skin and covered lightly for 15 to 20 minutes before rinsing. Internally, consuming 1 to 2 cloves of raw garlic daily, or using a high-quality aged garlic extract supplement, may help support the body's overall immune and antifungal defenses. Of course, raw garlic applied to sensitive or broken skin can cause irritation in some people, so it is worth testing a small area first. And a word of practical wisdom here. The antifungal properties of garlic drop significantly when it is cooked or processed. For therapeutic use, raw garlic or properly prepared cold processed extracts are preferable. If you are finding this information valuable, consider subscribing to Herbal Longevity. We explore traditional plant knowledge and modern nutritional science, bringing together wisdom that can help support your health naturally. New videos are published regularly, and there is no shortage of remarkable plants still waiting to be discussed. The fourth remedy, oregano oil. Oregano is known in most kitchens as a cooking herb, a fragrant leaf sprinkled over pizza or stirred into pasta sauce. But the essential oil extracted from wild oregano, particularly from the species Origanum vulgare, is something considerably more potent than what most people associate with Italian cuisine. Wild oregano oil has been used for centuries in Mediterranean and Middle Eastern folk medicine as a treatment for respiratory infections, digestive disorders, and skin conditions. And modern phytochemical research has confirmed that the oil contains 2 primary active compounds, carvacrol and thymol, that exhibit powerful antifungal properties. Carvacrol in particular has been the subject of extensive laboratory research. Yeast studies have shown that it disrupts the integrity of fungal cell membranes in a manner similar to pharmaceutical antifungal agents, but through a natural mechanism and without the liver strain sometimes associated with long-term antifungal medication use. Research published in the Canadian Journal of Microbiology found that carvacrol demonstrated strong inhibitory effects against both Candida and dermatophyte species. The implications for people dealing with persistent foot or nail fungus are significant. Wild oregano oil is typically used in 2 ways for fungal foot infections. The first is topical application. 2 to 3 drops of wild oregano oil are diluted in a teaspoon of carrier oil and applied directly to affected areas once or twice daily. The oil can cause a warm or slightly tingling sensation on the skin, which is normal at therapeutic dilutions. The second method is internal use. Small amounts of food-grade oregano oil can be taken internally, typically 1 to 3 drops under the tongue or mixed into a glass of water, to help address systemic fungal overgrowth. There is an important distinction worth making here. Many cases of recurring foot and nail fungus are not isolated surface infections. They are expressions of a broader internal imbalance, particularly an overgrowth of Candida species in the gut. When Candida flourishes in the digestive system, it can contribute to skin and nail fungal infections that resist surface treatment because the underlying source is internal. Oregano oil taken internally may help address this component, making it one of the few natural remedies with both a topical and systemic mechanism of action. As always, anyone currently taking medications or managing a serious health condition should consult a healthcare professional before beginning internal use of therapeutic essential oils. The fifth remedy, coconut oil. Coconut oil has had a complex reputation in recent years. Praised by some as a superfood, questioned by others for its saturated fat content. But when it comes to its role as an antifungal agent, the science is considerably clearer and less controversial. The medium-chain fatty acids found in coconut oil, particularly lauric acid and caprylic acid, have demonstrated significant antifungal activity in research settings. Caprylic acid in particular has been studied for its effects against Candida albicans, one of the most common fungal organisms that affects human health. It works by embedding itself into the fungal cell membrane and causing it to break down, a process called membrane disruption that is lethal to fungal cells without harming the human skin cells surrounding them. Lauric acid, meanwhile, converts in the body to a compound called monolaurin, which has both antifungal and antiviral properties. For topical use on foot fungus, coconut oil has several practical advantages. It is thick enough to form a protective layer on the skin's surface. It absorbs well without leaving excessive residue. It softens thickened, cracked skin, which is common in people who have had fungal infections for some time. And it serves as an excellent carrier oil for more potent antifungal agents like tea tree oil or oregano oil. Applying a thin layer of coconut oil to the affected areas after thoroughly drying the feet, particularly at night when the foot remains still and the oil has time to absorb, is a simple and effective practice. For people dealing with thickened toenails due to nail fungus, working a small amount of coconut oil into and around the nail bed each night may help soften the nail and create an environment less favorable to continued fungal growth. The consistency of this practice matters more than the single application. Over weeks and months, many people find that coconut oil used regularly as part of a broader antifungal routine makes a meaningful difference in both skin texture and fungal recurrence. Which of these remedies have you used before? Have you ever tried tea tree oil, garlic, or oregano oil for a fungal infection? You can tell me your experience in the comments section. Your story may help someone else in this community who is dealing with the same problem. The sixth remedy, baking soda and sea salt. Not every remedy on this list comes from a plant, but sodium bicarbonate, commonly known as baking soda, and natural sea salt have been used in traditional hygiene and healing practices for centuries, and both have a specific and valuable role to play in addressing fungal foot infections. Baking soda works through two mechanisms. First, it alters the pH of the skin surface in a way that is unfavorable to fungal growth. While apple cider vinegar acidifies the skin, which is helpful against many fungi, baking soda creates a mildly alkaline environment that disrupts a different phase of the fungal life cycle, particularly the spore germination phase. And some antifungal protocols use both apple cider vinegar and baking soda at different times of day for this reason, acidifying in the morning and alkalizing briefly in the evening to target fungal activity from both ends of the pH spectrum. Second, baking soda has notable moisture-absorbing properties. Because fungi thrive in moist environments, keeping the skin between toes and around the nail beds dry is one of the most important preventive strategies available. A light dusting of baking soda inside clean socks or directly onto dry feet can help absorb moisture throughout the day, significantly reducing the environmental conditions that favor fungal regrowth. Sea salt contributes differently. The high mineral content of natural sea salt creates an osmotic environment that draws moisture out of fungal cells, effectively dehydrating and killing them. Salt also has mild antiseptic properties that help maintain a clean skin surface and reduce the risk of secondary bacterial infection, which sometimes accompanies severe cases of athlete's foot. A warm foot soak combining 2 tablespoons of sea salt and 1 tablespoon of baking soda in a basin of warm water, used for 15 minutes 3 to 4 times per week, can be a simple and effective addition to any antifungal routine. The cost is minimal. The preparation takes seconds, and the cumulative effect over time can be significant. The seventh remedy, neem, we arrive now at what may be the least familiar remedy on this list, and perhaps the most remarkable. Neem is a tree. Its botanical name is Azadirachta indica, and it grows primarily across the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, and parts of Africa. In Ayurvedic medicine, one of the world's oldest continuous medical traditions, developed in ancient India over 3,000 years ago, neem is referred to as Sarva Roga Nivarini, which translates roughly as the healer of all ailments. This may sound like an extravagant claim, but neem is extraordinary in its biochemical complexity. The leaves, bark, seeds, and oil of the neem tree contain over 100 bioactive compounds, including nimbidin, nimbin, nimbidol, gadunin, and azadirachtin, and molecules that have been studied for their antimicrobial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulating properties. For fungal infections specifically, neem oil has been studied against multiple strains of dermatophytes, the fungi responsible for athlete's foot and nail infections. Research has found that compounds in neem oil disrupt the cell wall synthesis of fungal organisms, preventing them from reproducing and causing existing cells to lose their structural integrity. What makes neem especially interesting is that it appears to work well against fungal species that have developed resistance to conventional treatments. In regions where pharmaceutical antifungals are not easily accessible, neem has long served as the primary treatment for skin fungal infections, with significant traditional support for its effectiveness. In practice, neem oil can be applied topically in a diluted form similar to tea tree oil, mixed with a carrier oil and applied to affected areas once or twice daily. Neem leaf powder can also be made into a paste and applied as a topical mask for 20 minutes before rinsing. And neem leaf capsules or extracts, taken internally under appropriate guidance, may help support the body's immune response to systemic fungal overgrowth. One thing worth noting about neem oil, it has a strong, distinctive smell. Some people find this acceptable, while others prefer to use it only at night or mixed with a more pleasant-smelling carrier like coconut oil infused with lavender. The smell does not diminish the effectiveness of the oil. It is simply part of working with a plant this biochemically complex. Now, before we close, I want to address something important. something that explains why so many people treat foot fungus repeatedly without ever fully resolving the problem. The missing piece is the internal environment. Fungal infections of the skin and nails are frequently a reflection of what is happening inside the body, not just on its surface. When the digestive system's natural balance of beneficial bacteria has been disrupted through repeated antibiotic use, a diet high in refined sugar and processed carbohydrates, or chronic stress, fungal organisms like Candida can multiply. They can spread from the gut to other areas of the body, including the skin, nails, mouth, and sinuses. In this situation, no amount of surface treatment will create lasting results. The infection will continue to return because the source has never been addressed. By supporting the gut microbiome through probiotic-rich foods like natural yogurt, kefir, fermented vegetables, and prebiotic fiber, while reducing dietary sugar and refined starch that feed fungal organisms, is often the most important step that is completely absent from conventional treatment advice. Similarly, supporting immune function through adequate sleep, reduced stress, consistent gentle movement, and a diet rich in antioxidant-dense plants creates the internal conditions in which the body can maintain its own defenses against fungal overgrowth. Natural remedies like the ones we have discussed today work best when they are part of a broader approach, one that respects both the surface and the deeper internal terrain. This is what traditional medicine understood for centuries before pharmaceutical treatments made it tempting to focus only on the immediate symptom. Treat the surface, yes, but also tend to the conditions that made the infection possible in the first place. A brief but important note. If you have diabetes, a compromised immune system, or a severe or spreading fungal infection, please do not rely solely on natural remedies. These infections can develop serious complications in certain individuals. See a healthcare provider, use whatever treatment is appropriate, and consider natural remedies as supportive additions, not replacements for necessary medical care. Your health is always the priority. Let us take a moment to look back at what we have covered today. We began with tea tree oil, one of the most scientifically validated natural antifungal agents available, whose active compound terpenin-4-ol actively destroys fungal cell walls. We looked at apple cider vinegar, which works by restoring the skin's acidic pH environment, creating conditions that are hostile to fungal growth. We explored garlic, perhaps the most ancient medicinal plant in human history, whose compound allicin has demonstrated direct antifungal activity against the very species responsible for athletes' foot and nail infections. We discussed wild oregano oil, concentrated in carvacrol and thymol, two of the most potent naturally occurring antifungal molecules known to science, with both topical and systemic applications. We examined coconut oil, rich in caprylic acid and lauric acid, offering antifungal activity alongside practical benefits for skin texture and moisture balance. We considered the simple but effective pairing of baking soda and sea salt, altering the microbial environment of the skin while absorbing excess moisture. And we finished with neem, the ancient Ayurvedic tree whose extraordinary biochemical complexity has made it one of the most revered medicinal plants in traditional medicine for over 3,000 years. Each of these remedies has something important to offer, but the real lesson of today's video is not about any single plant or remedy. It is about understanding that the body functions as an interconnected system. Fungal infections on the surface of the skin are not isolated events. They are messages from the body's broader ecology, signals that something in the internal environment has shifted in a direction that favors unwanted organisms. When we respond to those signals thoughtfully, with targeted natural remedies, with supportive nutrition, with attention to gut health and immune function, we are not just treating a symptom. We are tending to the whole. And that is where lasting results come from. Not from one product, not from one cream applied and forgotten, but from consistent, thoughtful daily habits repeated over weeks and months. Health is always a process, not a moment. Thank you for taking the time to watch this today. If this kind of knowledge is valuable to you, traditional plant wisdom explored with honesty and scientific grounding, then Herbal Longevity is the channel for you. Subscribe so you do not miss the next video. We cover medicinal plants, longevity habits, forgotten herbal traditions, and the science that explains why they work. The knowledge is here. The choice to use it is always yours. Take care of your body. It is the only one you have, and it is far more capable of healing than most people are ever told.